Hey, Brad Wingo. Welcome to the before and after interview regarding Yeah But. Thanks for being here today.
Yeah, good to be here. Great to be here, Mark. How are you? So,
I'm doing great because you know what? I like to ask guests a few things right when we start. Brad, people don't know you, and some people that even know you, it took them a little bit to get to know you, to understand, to know what you like or how you react to things. One of the questions I like to ask is, what do you wish people knew about you sooner
hmm.
and they would be able to get to know you quicker because of this?
Yeah, so I think about that, and I think, I've spent, 25 years in CPG and gone through 6 or 7 acquisitions, and I've come through every one of them, sort of, I'll say clean, right? But my first job out of college, I was let go. I had to go
Mhm.
back on my feet. So I think that taught me to always be ready for the next transition and things like that. So, anyway, that's something I think that people might not know. My first job out of college, I was let go within 2 years, unemployed.
And you had a trajectory that you planned, so it uprooted your plans. You were planning to
Absolutely,
stay there, right? Right?
absolutely. And actually, more about that. I was in 3 different directions, and I took the job that actually paid the least because I think
Mhm.
it fit me the most, if that makes sense, right? 3 different direction path, and the one I chose, I was let go within the first 2 years.
So you could feel really dejected. Obviously, you're new in a career, you
Oh,
just graduated, you were set up to do something, you had your heart on it. What was going through your mind at that time when you were like, "Hey, what happened here?"
oh, so many emotions, right? Recently married within a year. What am I going to tell my wife? What am I going to do next? How do I get back to the jobs that I didn't get coming out of, undergrad school? How am I going to pay the bills, right? That was back in a time where you answered a newspaper ad, and I answered a newspaper ad for a company I couldn't spell, and it turned into a career that 25 plus years down the road is I've been pretty happy with. Yeah,
So even when things don't turn out as you expect, you go and actually it could turn out better than you thought?
possibly. Yeah, yeah.
So we talk about yeah buts, and think about this, Brad. I bet back then, just like now, you might have had a few yeah buts.
hmm
So tell us about like one topic that you're kind of stuck on or you want to get through, and let's talk about some of the yeah buts that you have regarding that.
Yeah, I think one that always sticks with me is yeah, but I'm not qualified,
Hmm.
right? Whether it's I didn't have the greatest grades or don't have a full set of experience, and it's sort of tied a little bit on, I don't know if, so I'm not ready as well. I see I'm not ready and qualified, similar but different, you know?
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's one or two certainly that I get stuck on.
Okay. So when you think of that, you can stop and be like, and stuck, right? It
hmm
do like at different parts of your career and or life and be able to do that. And when that goes through your head, do you actually physically say it out loud or you're just thinking it? Do you share it with other people? When do you use this yeah, but when you have?
Most of it is to myself. I'm a fairly, some folks would say I'm not quiet and reserved. Other would say that he is quiet and reserved. So it all depends on what the circle is. But yeah, there's definitely times when I see an opening or a position or an opportunity that's the first thing that comes to my mind. And there's times that I'll talk to my wife Stacy and go, I don't think I'm ready for that.
And what advice does she give you sometimes regarding when you say that out loud?
Answers the question back to me. Why aren't you ready? What do you mean you're not ready? You've been talking about that for years. Yeah, but I'm not just quite ready, you know?
One of the things we talk about in the book is imposter syndrome. Are you familiar with
Mm,
imposter
very,
syndrome?
yeah. I've heard it. I've heard it. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's thinking that you're going to be found out. So sometimes people are successful. A lot of CEOs have this
Mm,
where they're like, oh my gosh, if people really knew who I really was. Now, we're not talking that they're doing something illegal or immoral. It's just like they think, wow, I got this. But truthfully, I'm scared, I'm uncertain, I don't know if I'm qualified enough, I don't know if I can do the job, but they're doing the job. And it's in their mind that's holding them back from actually doing this because they feel like if they're found out, everything will fall apart.
Yeah.
And we talk about that in the book to say that sometimes these yeah buts are literally our thing. If you asked other people, they'd be like, "Are you serious? Like,
Yeah.
You're the guy that just did." I mean, you've been in a career for 25 years. I'm thinking you got to be somewhat good at sales to last a decade, 2.5 decades, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that people can still have yeah buts regarding things, no matter if they're doing them for years or minutes.
Sure.
Same question.
Sure.
So the other thing is like, have you thought about like, I think one of the things you mentioned was, yeah, but what if I fail?
Yes.
Right? Okay. So tell us why that might be a yeah, but for you.
So for me, it's actually tied to another one because I actually, so as you and I have known each other for a little while, we've moved around a bit. We moved from Mississippi to North Carolina to Jersey. When we moved from Carolina to Jersey, I actually got involved with a small group Bible study as a leader, and it failed. And I was actually getting from my small group at the time, "You're ready for this. I think God's leading you up there to. I'm excited about you. I'm praying for you." And it failed. And so that was humbling to me. That was also a realization to me that God had a different plan for me and my life and my family's life at that time. Um, I was ready, but maybe not ready as there was something else going on with my family, right? And so to this day, I'm actually going, is it time yet? I'm not ready for that. Wait a minute. And other people go, "What do you mean you're not ready for that?" I'm like, "Because I failed before. I don't want to fail again." You know? So some of it's past
And,
history, right? I mean,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Things that are in our head or things that we've experienced. We're like, I don't want to feel like a failure. I don't want to fail. I don't want this not to work.
yeah. I just had an opportunity within the last month with my company to actually take on a new role that I've actually had in my development plan for 2 years. And the yeah, but came in, what if I fail? Right? Because when I got into the interview, some of the questions were very specific that you would have to have experience on that customer with that company or whatever. And I just thought in my head, what if I fail? And then I said, I'm not ready. And then because of personal reasons, I actually backed out. I've never done that in my career. I don't know. Time will tell, whether that was was that a good yeah but or a bad yeah but? Is there such a thing as, I don't know, knowing when you're not ready? I don't know.
You bring up a lot of good points. It's, yeah, buts, the way we look at them and what I've seen with clients that I've consulted with or done executive coaching with is that you're going to have some yeah buts you don't solve.
Yeah.
Right? Not every yeah but needs a solution. Some yeah buts are just going to be there and you're like, am I going to still move on around it? Can I solve 5% of it? So like, yeah, but not where I'm from.
Oh, yeah.
Because of where people have come from or their history. They're like, you can't undo where you've been from, and that may never be something because you can't change the past. But still people are looking and go, yeah, but nobody ever, from where I was from in Mississippi or New Jersey, they've never been able to do this that long. So that means I can't. I was like, really? Is that true?
I have one of the yeah buts. That I answer was, I'm too old or I'm too young, and I say that both ways because there's people that, so I'm probably at the age where I've got maybe 10 years left, right, before I probably retire or do something else, and so I look at that and go, I'm too old to start that, right? I've missed my opportunity, right? Company had the chance years ago, and I didn't get that job then, so I'm not going to pursue it again, right? I don't know.
There's a statistic we use in the book about people changing careers in their 40s.
Yeah.
And also people doing work that is later in their life. Like I'm writing a book in my 50s. And there's things that people have started businesses in their 60s. And we could look at that and go, well, that's just rare and that's not going to happen because of X, Y, and Z. I mean, Bob Buford wrote a book called Halftime that talks about going from success to significance and talks about, okay, well, you've achieved all these amazing things in the first half of your life. What are you going to do to bless the kingdom with the gifts that you have in the second half of your life? And then you're not retiring from something, you're actually retiring to something. And I bring this up because you mentioned about your faith and about Bible and also about this small group that failed. Does that mean every small group's going to fail just because one did?
No.
And wasn't that the opportunity for us to meet was at church too? So it's like, and so just because something failed doesn't mean that there wasn't blessings beyond the event. It still got you New Jersey, and that takes an act of God to move people to New Jersey.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
And usually an act of God to move them out, or actually, it's actually easy to move them out because you're like, can I leave now? And it says a guy from New Jersey. So, Brad, I want to give you some chapters to read to reflect on about this and see how you want to look at this and see if it provides different perspective or anything else. What else were you thinking? I saw an idea pop up above your head.
Well, it's interesting. I think about, another but that I've had is, I don't have the time, right? And that was around when I made this conscious decision a couple weeks ago to step out for an opportunity with the company. The question the company asked, well, but what are you going to do, right? What's your passion? And I actually said mentoring. I'd like to develop, I'd like to develop a mentoring program. So it didn't go anywhere at the company. And then like that, I got an email from my university saying, hey, we're looking for mentors. I'm like, yeah, but nah, nobody's looking for me. So my daughter, who just graduated, who's an alum, I mentioned it to her. I go, have you heard about that? And she goes, yeah, it's a great program, Dad. You'd be great for it. Did you sign up? Well, no, I was on step 8 of 10, but I figured I'd ask you, and I haven't hit the submit button yet. And she's like, why not? I'm like, yeah, but I'm not sure if I have. I mean, it all crept in. So that's just one thing I think about. I don't have the time. Sure, you have the time. How much time do we spend scrolling on our phone throughout the day? I have the time.
And it's funny that you already wanted to do something at the company, but then when you're offered it, did I understand that correctly? So you said you want to mentor. Where were you going to mentor originally?
So with the company, right? With younger people, and I gotta, but we assign that to somebody else.
Oh, but so you couldn't do it at the company, but then when you had an offer to do it at the university, you didn't have time. But
that's right. Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure I heard that.
You
correct,
heard that right?
I thought that was ironic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's funny. So your daughter's obviously a lot younger than you. How does she get this wisdom, Brad, that she would go and say, why would you not do that? Does that sound like something you'd say to her?
Yeah, exactly. It does. And I think for me personally, I'm my own worst critic, right? And I think there's times, I need to listen more to what the folks that know me best and the folks that know, listen to feedback, the positive feedback. You got this. You can actually, she actually works for a company this summer. It's called You Got This LLC, which is about, anyway. So, yeah.
It's just amazing when we listen. So, Brad, this has been a great conversation. I as much as I know you, I get to still know more about you. And I get to know the struggles you have. And now you get to share it. So technically, you might not be knowing this, but your story can actually go and affect other people specifically because you were willing to share, right? People who have lost a job, people who have struggled, people who have said, yeah, but people who have trouble providing early in their marriage for what's going on. And then people have to listen to their kids that actually have wisdom. I mean, there's so many things that came out of just your conversation that you just don't even know how you can help people. But once you put it out there and we package this up in a way where we talk about, buts, there's opportunities for people to gain things and thank you later and go, I needed that. Wow. And you're like, really? That was just my story. Yeah. I think we forget how big things are that we have overcome, and that for other people, they're still learning how to deal with it.
Yeah. Wow.
So thanks for your time. And I'm looking forward to interview number 2, where you're actually going to go and talk about how you work through and if you moved it forward on some yeah buts or what it looks like.
Okay. Yeah, looking forward to diving in a little bit more.
Brad Wingo, welcome back to Yeah But, and before and after interview. Excited to hear about what happened now that you've had a chance to read some chapters about your Yeah Buts.
Absolutely. Can't look forward to it. Absolutely.
So give me a little recap for people that might have not heard the first part.
Yeah, so a couple of the yeah buts that I was really interested in was, I'm not ready. I don't have the time. I'm too old or young, which in my I'm about to be 52, so I don't know if it's a yeah, but I'm too old or yeah, but I'm too young. Could be both. Another a couple were I'm not qualified and what if I fail, right?
Okay.
And my background and history, I've been CPG sales for like 25 years, primarily with one company, but been through several like transitions, mergers, integrations, spinoffs, and always seem to find my way about my wits about me to land a place in a new company. So I'm always trying to figure out how can I help myself grow and how can I help the company grow. So
That's great. So long career, successful, obviously, if you've been there that long, but you still have yeah buts. And let's explore, now that you've had a chance to read the chapters, kind of what you thought before and maybe what you've uncovered through some of the reading.
yeah, so one of them I was thinking about was, yeah, but I'm not qualified. So, that's one that always for me, it's like, is that the perfectionism, syndrome, the imposter syndrome, right? So I think about that of I'm not qualified to lead a team of people, right? It also goes back, ties into, what if I fail? There's times I've interviewed for those roles and haven't gotten those roles. And you come back to the yeah, but of here's why. Well, I didn't get it because I wasn't qualified. Well, I'm not sure because then it turns into I'm not ready. So some of these sort of intertwine, but I think about I'm not qualified, and that what I read was, you're never perfect, right? There's never a role that's gonna set you up, I think, for everything you're gonna endure in the next role. So I think about that, and it's like my current role, what I've been doing for 2 years, I'm a sales operations manager supporting 3 teams as sort of I'll call it like a player coach type. I don't manage people, but my VP would tell you have the authority to challenge, to question, to help. You're a coach and a cop, and I think about that going, how can I use I'm not qualified as I don't feel like I'm ready to lead a team, but yet the team leaders that do give me the license to, hey, challenge. You know the business? And I'm thinking about that going, all right, so then that how do I use this current role to be a player coach and be an indirect manager so that I'm quote unquote qualified to go be that next team lead or whatever it is, Does that make sense?
It makes sense because when you take a role, sometimes you're not completely qualified. You grow into it because even if you're qualified, once you step into it, you realize it might have been different
Oh
than you
boy.
even expected.
Yeah.
And since you're dealing with humans, when you add a person to a team or take a person away from a team, you have a completely new team. People forget that dynamics of adding people. So how can you be qualified for every opportunity, every situation with every human?
Oh, it's so funny you say that because what we've got, one of the teams I support is a local team, and I've got a hybrid role, but I'm in that office maybe 1, 2 days a week. We've got some new people on that team, and one of his colleagues who actually asked me just the other day about this, banging her head on the wall. I'm like, oh, look, that just comes with that time and experience. But let me show you what I experienced when I was in that role for a number of years. So, wow, interesting. What about that?
And when you talk about imposter syndrome, most of the time when you look at people that are having conversations about you, it's not that you can't do the role. There's a specific thing, might be personality, might be behavioral, but we usually beat ourselves up a lot more about, oh my gosh, if they found out about this one thing. But most of the time, that one thing, not even on their radar.
No.
So imagine if you're better than you think you are, Brad, and you've been doing it long enough that you actually know what's going on and you're still willing to listen and learn. Imagine what it looks like where you're always growing. And the thing is that if you were overqualified, maybe the job would be boring. Maybe you'd feel underutilized. Maybe it'd be like, why am I even here? I'm just phoning it in. Not saying you ever do that, but that's what happens when people are so used to the role and have been doing it so long that it doesn't become a challenge anymore. So think about some of these other ones. Like, I know you mentioned about time. That's one of the ones that come up a lot. So how have you worked through that? Because that is the great equalizer.
Oh yeah, I mean 1440 is that the minutes? Is that the minutes? For I can't
Every day.
14. The bump you mentioned, the bump, the best use of my prioritized time. The now. This one I wrote a lot of notes on this one. I don't know if this is the second one I wrote, but the now, next, near, or never. I thought about a book that I read a while ago. The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey, and I thought that's monkey man. You either shoot the monkey, you feed the monkey, or you pass the monkey, you shoot the monkey, or the feed the monkey. I thought that's an interesting twist on it. It's now, next, near, or never, right? So I think about, like, I've only got a certain number of time. I don't have the time. How am I going to make the best use of my prioritized time? I'm not going to get it all done. I think about another thing that a lot of folks have business, but I also use it in my personal life. It's like one of the first things in my day timer. It's about big rocks. And the analogy of, you've got the sand and the gravel and the big rocks, and can you fit all in? And no, you can't. Well, you can if you put the big rocks in first. And then you pack it with sand or gravel, and then sand, and then water. So you just got to prioritize what that is. You have to have the license to say, is in business world, I believe, is this a meeting or is this an email? Am I an inform or decision maker? Am I coming to this? We've now gone to this virtual world where let's just set up a meeting. Well, coming to this meeting, what is my objective? What do you want me to bring? And what are we going to come out of it versus just a phone conversation? Does that make sense? So that's what I thought about that going, we feel like we don't have this time, right? And I'm like, but then I also read something this week as part of our small group about, like, the world, like, we feel like we're on 24/7 because, technology and cell phones and work remote and blah, blah. And it's like, I read a statistic that, like, after, I think it's 50 or 55 hours, the productivity declines steeply. And you think about the doctors and lawyers and great professions, but when you're putting in 75, 80 hours a week, if you are, what's you have to prioritize the time.
And you have to own your own time. And people that work at organizations feel like, but I have to go to these meetings. I was like, well, why don't start with your group, right? The people that you work with, the ones that look to you for guidance. You start looking at it going, I'm not going to invite you unless you have a role at the meeting, because a summary now with AI can actually be more comprehensive than anybody's note taking, right? You're like, wow, look what AI found out about our meeting. Like, this is a better notes than I would have ever. So the thing is, like, you have to lean into things in a way where you're like, if I don't prioritize, then I'm going to start going to everything. Then at the end of the week, I'm going to be like, what did I accomplish? But people forget that they have some autonomy in groups and organizations and roles and even subsets that they can start this with. The whole company doesn't have to change. It starts with you and your own time.
God, it's funny you even say that. So one of our cadences, we've got like category and customer teams, and we meet with them on a regular basis. So I've got like 3 customer teams and 5 categories. So that's 15 meetings a week that some of us are in. And my VP has challenged us with, Brad, I can't go to every one of them. Is there a way we can get like AI to summarize it? He's a smart guy, right? But he knows there's a way. He just knows he's got an ops manager that can figure out, how do I wire these meetings to where they generate an AI in an email summary, and then him at a VP level can decide, oh, I need to hop in there, or just, I'm getting a summary, getting a Cliff Notes version. And it's all generated by AI and push out. You talk about don't have time. We have time. We have tools. Let's use them.
And that's the thing. It's even prior to AI, some people are concerned that companies won't even let them use AI for some valid reasons.
Sure.
But the thing is that you mentioned this. Is it a decision meeting? Is it an informational meeting, right? Or is everyone present? Because if the decision makers aren't there, why are we even meeting if we're going to go and have to represent it to them? How many times have we said this? The problem is in big organizations, Brad, and you've known this for a long time, they have this cadence and they're like, we have to have a weekly stand up. We have to have these I was like, okay, tell me what they accomplished. See, as a consultant, I love to go and ask people the fundamental questions and be like, so you have these meetings. What are they supposed to accomplish? How efficient are they? When's the last time you looked at changing the way you do them to see the ownership of the people in the meeting, what they own versus what they heard and what could have been read in advance of the meeting because it was just a summary in advance of just, here's an update. Well, do I need you to tell me an update? Or is there going to be interaction where I'm going to actually dialogue? Oh, we have no time for dialogue. We already go over in our meetings. Okay, this is a destructive way to waste people's time
Wow.
and make
Yep.
them disconnect.
Hmm.
Right? It happens at every
All the
organization
time.
level size, but it is solvable, Brad. It
Hmm.
is.
Yeah.
So, think about like, failure is sometimes a thing that people concern themselves about. And I know you mentioned the what if I fail, but that could look like a lot of different things.
Yeah.
What were you thinking about when you mentioned what I if I fail, and how do you want to address that going forward?
So when I sort of picked that one, it was from a perspective of like actually leading on personal side, leading a small group, right? So I've failed in that, in prior lives, or not in prior lives, in prior small groups. So I'm like, all right, so how do I do that? And then I think about what the example of the Dyson vacuum, 5,126 times he failed. What a great but okay, so I failed at one. Did and I even think about that. Did I fail, or was that not the right time for me?
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know if it's
Mhm.
anything I did. I think
Mhm.
sometimes the Lord actually sets you up to fail to learn.
The Dyson example, I think, is amazing because I don't think I'd have the stamina for more
No.
than 10, but to do it thousands of times. But when you know there's something that can work and people just don't see it, and when you're in a
Yeah.
futurist and you're thinking about things that people yet to need, but all of a sudden when it's produced, you're like, where have you been all my life?
Hmm.
Sometimes you're going to come up with a lot of bumps. And Brad, you brought this up, right? Because you were talking about being small group. How about if the refinement is patience? How about the refinement is looking at yourself differently? How about is seeing yourself the way the Lord sees you? How about if it has nothing to do with small group at all? It has to do with how you perceive who you were made to be and what you were made to do. And the small group is just one example of
Mm.
what you just need to look at yourself differently.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's the part I love about this Yeah But book, right? You only read 5 chapters. There's 16. And I just
Oh.
had someone else read the whole book. And he's like, yeah, these ones didn't relate to me, but I read them a second time and I realized how relatable they were to me. And that's the interesting part. You come in here and you're thinking, oh, I don't have an issue with where I came from.
Hmm.
And then you start reading the backstory about, well, yeah, I did go to this one high school that wasn't the popular one versus this other one. Or, yeah, I was
Yeah.
on that side of town. And then you're like, oh, okay, but I overcame that. Like, it could have been a yeah, but it wasn't because I didn't let it. That's
Oh,
another thing I think
wow.
that comes out of the book is the ones that aren't, think about it and be like, and I'm going to share the whole book with you, but to think about it and be like, wow, how come this isn't a yeah, but? Oh, that's right. I
Mm.
didn't let it be a yeah, but.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
So, anything else that you want to share just about what you experienced through this process or just what you feel that you learned?
Yeah, I mean, it does make you sit back and reflect and go, Is these yeah buts, is it my perception or is it a reality? You know? So like, yeah, but I'm not ready. Like, there's never a first time. You got to like take the first step. You got to do basics first, right? I even shared, I've been looking at, potentially bringing up a mentor program at the company. Not sure if that's really going to go anywhere, but then an opportunity presented myself to be a mentor with the university, right? And I mentioned that to my daughter, and she's like, "Did you sign up?" I'm like, "Yeah, no." So then I read the book again, or read the chapter on I'm Not Ready. And I'm like, well, I have to sign up. So, all right, I'm signed up. I'm waiting to see where the match is. Who knows? Or even I'm too old or too young. I mean, there's two different ways of that, right? I mean, you can think about age as a number. Are you going to focus on, like, I've been in the industry. I've been in a career of 25 years. I might have another 10, maybe 10 to 15. Am I going to worry about what I did in the last 25, or am I going to focus on the next 10 to 15? And then am I going to finish strong and then be ready to do something else to continue to give back? Or am I just going to, you said it before, glide path and just sit there and not have to, you know what I'm saying? And so I think I'm re-energized to be, hey, it is about the big finish, the next 15. And if that's 5 to 10 in the corporate world, and then whatever, right? Like, I don't know. You can't predict the future. You just got to continue to. I think one thing you said there was fail forward from the fail. Thinking, wow, what a way to look about that, right? Let's fail forward and just take 2 steps forward if we have to take a step back.
Yeah. It's mindset, right? Brett,
Yeah.
these are a lot of things you knew. You're an intelligent guy. You know your role. You love your family. You're a girl dad too. The thing is, you look at this and go, okay, here's a bunch of things that I have done and I know to do. And maybe I'm still learning that role too. Like, where are we stopped, right? And
Right.
the age thing, it's the great stuff that surprises you out of left field. Like the Susan Boyle example is one of my favorites because I remember watching that and I'm thinking, okay, here's another person they're going to make fun of that doesn't have any skill, but they're going to do that. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, that came out of left field, right? There's somebody where you didn't see it coming. Brad, how many times you've already done something and you're still not confident? That kind of has air under your wings, so to speak, right? Using an airplane analogy to be like, you already got this trajectory. You already got this thing going. Why doubt now, right? It's
Yeah.
age brings wisdom. And if people aren't supporting you because of your age or because of the lack of it, how do you change your perspective or even theirs? Or do you even need to change theirs and it's just yours?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things I think that come through with reflection. And I think it takes an interruption for people to really start reflecting on where they want to be and what they're doing. So,
Yeah.
so what is the next, like, what do you want to leave to other people, right? Kind of, you're having a conversation now with people that are going to be listening to this and watching this. What do you need to tell them that you've learned through this about yourself, but also advice you'd give your former self, your younger self?
Yeah. Well, what I would say is, like, digest the book, right? Like, read it and make a change somewhere, whether it be personal, whether it be professional, right? I mean, there's a way I think it can intertwine, right? I mean, be your authentic self and realize that, realize the value that you have to the people around you.
Thank you for listening to the Yeah But podcast. If today's episode provided valuable perspective on how to overcome the excuses that can hold you back, let us know in the comments. Remember, it's not about the yeah buts. It's about finding ways to live, learn, and lead better every day. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could use a little kick to get past their yeah buts. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And for even more tips, connect with me at markawolf.com/podcast or on LinkedIn. Until next time, keep challenging those excuses and keep moving forward.